What's up guys? So in today's video we're going to be building and deploying this portfolio website with Astro. So let's take a quick look at how it is. So we have this header section or navigation section, and we have some hover states right here. We also have this nice looking hero section. If we scroll down a bit, we have an about section. Also have a project section, and the cool thing about this project section is that if I hover on it, the details of each project is prefetched. So if I open my dev tools and I go to network, so let me refresh the page again. So just watch, once I hover, you see that project is prefetched. So now I can open it and it will take less than 2 seconds for it to open, and you can see details of each project, and you can go back. And if you notice, you can see that when we are going to each dynamic route, the page does not refresh because we are using Astro View Transition API, which is really cool. So we also have the testimonial section and the footer section, and as well you can navigate between a section, and is also responsive for mobile as well. All right, before we dive right into the video, I just want to let you know that the design of this project was gotten from the Figma community. So if I go to Figma, this is the actual design. I will make sure to leave the link in the description in case if you want to do a deep dive by creating extra pages. But this is it. You also have this style guide as well, and it's designed by this person, Shazad. I don't know who they are, but I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So I'll leave a link to this design in the description, and you can just like and just show some love. The link to the code will also be in the description below. Alright, with that being said, let's dive right into the video. Alright, so before we go into coding, I just want to talk a little bit about what Astro is. I believe if you clicked on this video, you might have an overview of what Astro is, but in case this is your first time seeing Astro, basically Astro is a web framework. I call it a meta framework like Next.js, but it's for content-driven website. But apart from it being a content-driven website, you can build whatever you want with it. You can see it says for marketing sites, blogs, e-commerce, and more. And one of the cool things I like about Astro is that it's server first, which means all your content are being rendered on the server by default, and you can opt in into client side by using what we call Astro Island. We'll also be implementing that by using React, because with Astro Islands you can use whatever frameworks you want, and you can use more than one in a project. I don't know why you would do that, but it's allowed. But if you're not familiar with any of this framework, you can just stick to the regular script tag. Alright, I believe that you have a basic understanding of Astro with the little explanation I just gave. So let's just go to VS Code, and you know what, we'll just open this documentation because this is where we'll be spending most of our time. So we'll go to the initial setup, and this is the command right here to create a new Astro project, and we'll leave this open as well. So you can open VS Code if you're using VS Code or whatever code editor you're using, and I already have a folder called portfolio website YT that is empty at the moment. So what I'll do is I will use Command J to open my terminal, and I only say Command J. I'm using Windows, so it's Control J. Then I'll press Control and the tilde to take me to my terminal. So you can see Control and tilde right here. Then I'll say npm create Astro at latest. Then I'll specify the folder where I want to create the project. In my case, I will use the period time because I already have the folder opened. Alright, so it will ask you how you would like to start your project. So we'll go with an empty template. You can use a blog or a sample file, but we'll just stick to empty. Do you plan to write TypeScript? We'll leave it at yes, because if you choose no for some reason, you will still write TypeScript. So we just leave it at yes. We leave it as strict, and we install dependencies, and we also initialize a new GitHub repo. Alright, so I'm having this error. Hopefully you don't run into it, but if you run into it, just copy this command, and let me clear this out, and I will reinstall all the node modules again. Alright, so everything is installed hopefully. So I'll clear this out, and as you can see, we have this public folder where you can store assets like your logo, favicon, and we also have this source folder, and this is where we'll be spending most of our time. You can see it also comes with this pages folder. This is where you will include all the route for your different pages. And we also have this env.typescript to validate different types, and regular git ignore file, package on JSON file. So we also have this astro.config file right here where you can add some configurations. So for instance, if I start our server by saying npm run dev, so it's going to open on port 4321 by default. So you can see right here, I can just copy it and just open it right here. Bring this right here. Of course, I didn't add one. Here we go. So we just have this single text. How cool is that? And we have this dev toolbar that's been given to us that we can use to inspect things that is going on our website. But we won't be needing it in this project, but you can go through it and see if you would use it on your own project. And we also want to change this port, so we'll stop the server, and to do that I will open this right here and I'll say server, and I'll specify the port, and I will select port 3000, and I will say dev toolbar, I will say enabled should be false because enabled is by true. So now I can do npm run dev, and let me bring this down a bit. It feels taking up some space. Alright, so now we can select port 3000 and nothing should change except this going away. Alright, cool. So the first thing we want to do is to create this header section right here. But before we do that, I want to bring in the fonts we'll be using as well as the icons as well. So if we get back to the Astro docs, they have fonts. You can see it's under assets. They have fonts, and the way to use them is fairly simple, and it's nice as well. I recently learned that you using the link from the Google font makes your website performance really slow, but using these directly does the opposite of that. So it's called font source, but we'll just come right here and find the one we want. So I'll open this in a new tab. And we'll search for Poppins because I don't have any other fonts in my mind again. Then I will select install right here and copy this command, and we'll open a new tab right here and paste it in, install it. All right, cool. So for us to know that it's working, I'll close this out first. Close this out, then I'll do a couple of things. So I will head back to the docs and I will just copy this right here and paste it in, but this time I will change it to Poppins. And we can easily just test it out by saying style and just say body should have the font family of Poppins or default to sans serif. So if we go back now and view this, you can see the font has changed. But in case if you are wondering why we're adding style directly here, cool thing about Astro that you can let me just go to the docs so that you see for yourself. So with Astro you can add scope styles, you can add global styles, and as you can see that the CSS are automatically scoped by default, which means that anything we do right inside the style tag will only affect this file right here. But you can make it affect other pages by setting this to is global. So if this is global, it's going to affect all the other files. But if you want to use other integrations like Tailwind and the rest, you can see if I come to CSS integration, you can see they have options for Tailwind, SAS, and SCSS. But we'll just stick to the default CSS. Alright, so what I will do right now is that if I come to this bar, notice that one thing about the header section of a website is that it rarely changes. So we want it to stay at a particular spot even when we navigate to another page, for instance. So in order for us to achieve that, we need to use a reusable structure, and we can do that by using layouts. So I can come right into the source directory and create a layout folder and create a layout file called layout.astro. And inside this layout.astro file, I can now come to the indexed file, and for now we don't need this anymore. I can just cut everything right here and I will paste it in the layout.astro file and save it. And now if I close this, we won't see anything right here because now we need to inject this index file in our layout, and we can do that by using a element called slot. So slot enables us to do this. So basically slot allows us to inject different components on this layout structure right here. So since we have this, we can now come to this layout and open a code fence, and basically this code fence is where you store most of your logic and imports that will be rendered on the server. So we'll bring in the layouts that we just created, and we can just say here should be home, and if we save it now, come back and just do a refresh once, you can see now we have the home right here. All right, cool. The next thing we'll do is to bring in the fonts icons, and we can just do that by saying fonts awesome CDN, select this one, and we just copy this first one right here, close this out, and go to our layout file, and let me paste it right here. So now we want to give our website a name. Right now is Astro by default, but we want to give it a name that's related to the website. So we can do that by saying putting this inside props, and we just pass a title right here. It should be of type string. Also have a description, which will also be of type string. And with these probes that is being given to us by Astro, we can destructure all these by saying const, and we can say Astro dot props. So we now have access to all this right here. We can pass in the title and the description. For the title now, we can just set it to, let's say, Aaron logo design. And for the description, let's just set it to adaptive logo design for your brand. All right, cool. So for us to use this, we just have to come to this title and open a curly bracket and pass in the title. While for the description, we can just copy this down by holding Shift Alt and the down arrow key. I will say this should be the description, and we'll just pass the description right here. All right, cool. So if we go back, you can see this has changed. And if I open the dev tools and select elements and go to my head, you see that the description is coming in as well. And this is also good for SEO, because you would want the description for each page to be unique. So okay, we're having an error here because we need to specify the title. So what I would do is that we need this title to be default here. So make this optional, I'll make this optional as well for this error to go away. All right, so before we go fully into creating this header section right away, I just want to quickly set up a CSS. So I will go to my source folder and create a new folder called styles, and inside that folder I'll create a file called global.css. This is where we'll write the CSS that will be used across each file. So we'll leave it empty, but we can just import it at the top right here by saying import, say go back to level, go to styles, and go to global.css. All right, cool. So like I said earlier on, this header section is something that would require interactivity. So you can see that we'll have this open and close navigation right here. So basically you can use the script tag, but I want to show you how you can do that using a framework like React. So I can just come right here and add React to our Astro project by just saying I've forgotten the command. So what I'll just do is to go back right here and let me look for it. So UI frameworks, and we'll select React. This is it right here. So npx astro add React. So we just do that quickly. So we say yes, then we say yes again, and we say yes again. So with this now, it has automatically added it to our project. So if we come to the astro.config, see that it's being added as an integration right here. So to use it is basically simple. We just come to this source folder, and I can create a components folder to store each of the components. So inside the components folder, I'll create the header.tsx file, and I'll spin up a quick template by saying arrow fce. I'll get rid of this one. All right, so to see that this is working, I can just come to my layout.astro file, and I'll just pass this right here and say header, and I can just import it right here. So if I come back right here, and if I reload this, see that it's showing right here. So right now, we can start styling the header section. So we change this from a div to a section, to header tag rather, not a section. Then we just give this a class name of header. Then inside it, we'll have another class called container, and we'll have the logo. Also have the nav bar. So let me just write all these out. I also have the menu icons as well. So right here, we can just bring in the logo by saying, or by putting inside an anchor link, and this should go to the home page. I'll give this a class name, call it logo, and inside this, we want to bring in this image right here. So you can do that by using the image tag right here. Astro also have a better way to optimize images, but I like just using this image tag for images that are stored on the public folder. And talking about images, I have not brought in the images that we'll need, so I'll do that and get back to you shortly. All right, so I've brought in the images. As we come to the use case of each of them, I will explain better. So we need this logo right here, which is this SVG logo right here, and we can also specify a width. Let's just say this should be 100, and the height as well can be 100. All right, cool. So for the nav bar, we'll also be using a React component as well. So just say this should be the nav. Let's call it nav.tsx and do the same thing. I'll get rid of this one, so I can come right here and bring in the nav. And just import it right here. While for the menu icons, we'll put them inside a button tag, and we'll give this a class name of menu icons, and also give it an area label for accessibility. For now, we just call it menu icon. We'll make changes to it in a bit, and inside we'll just show one of them. So I will say this should be the FA solid FA bars. All right, cool. So let's see what we have so far. Okay, so it's not looking that good, but we're starting from somewhere. So for styling, I like going from mobile first approach. So what we have to do now is to come to this nav right here. So what we want to do is to add some states to track if this is clicked. So if this is clicked, or if the navigation is open, we want to close it, and vice versa. So we can do that by creating a state and say this should be is clicked. I'll say this to set is clicked. I'll set this to use state. I'll set this to false by default. So right now we're going to create a function called handle nav click, and this will be an arrow function, and we just basically invert the is clicked state. So if I can spell correctly, so basically we won't call this function, we just want to change this from false to true and from true to false. All right, to use this handle nav click, we have to come to this button and say on click, passing the handle nav click, and now for this area label, can get rid of everything and basically say if is clicked, we want to set this to close menu, else we'll set it to open menu. So if it's clicked, we set it, change the text to close menu, then we change it to open menu. One will click on it again. Then we also do the same check right here and say if it's clicked, then we want to do something, else we also want to do something. So if it's opened, we want to grab this and I'll paste this here, then I will change this to FA close, and I will still add an area label. I hope I'm spelling this right. Okay, I'll set this to true. Now cut this and paste it here, and I'll also set the area label to true as well. So let's test it out. So if I click on this, it's not going to work, and I will explain why. Now remember I said that Astro ships 0 JavaScript, so all your content are being read on the server. So right now we're clicking on this and it's basically reading this as a normal text file. So for it to recognize this as a client-side interaction, we need to come back to the layouts and specify right here and say clients, and you can see it has different properties. So I like using the load right here, but you can use any one you feel it's right for you. So once the page loads, we can now toggle between different states, as you can see right here. All right, cool. So we can come to this nav. So on top of this nav, I'll create an array of objects and I'll call these links so that I can just store the different nav links right here. So we say this should have a name. I'll call this home, and the href should be /home. So basically everything is in one page. That's why we are doing this. Then I'll copy this 3 more times. So 1, 2, 3, and add comma to this. The next one will be about me, and this will be, let's just call this about. This will be work. This will be my work. The last one is contact. I will also set this to contact. All right, so we'll get rid of this div and we'll use the nav tag, and we'll give this a class name and set this to nav. And inside the nav, we'll create an order list and give this a class of menu. And inside this unordered list, we'll loop through the links right here, and we'll create a list item and give this a key so that React can keep track of each item right here. And you know what, instead of grabbing this link, we'll just destructure the name and the href. And this is weird because we're using href and href, but that doesn't matter. We'll just stick with this. Then we'll set the key to the name. Then inside it, we'll just create an anchor tag, and we'll set the href to the href, and this will set this to the name, so we can view it and you can see everything is right here. I believe the logo is the big stuff right here. All right, so we need to style this up. So we'll go to our globals.css file, and I'll call this global styles. This is where we add the styles that are being used across, and we'll store our colors in this root element right here. And we'll instead of me to just copy the type of the colors, I will just copy them and paste them right here and get back to you. So these are the colors we'll be using. I like naming the main color as primary and the other ones as secondary, and the thicker that color is, the higher the number. That's how I do my naming. So the next thing we want to do is to do some CSS reset by getting rid of the margin, also getting rid of the padding, setting the box size to border box, and I think that's for that. Then for the body, we'll set the font family to Poppins or sans serif. Then we'll set the background color to this secondary 700, and of course we'll set the color to white, which is the secondary 100. So let's see what we have so far. All right, cool. So another thing we want to do is to add some basic reset for the images. So come to the image right here, set a max width, set it to 100%. I will set the display to block so that we don't get some weird vertical spacing with the image, and we also set the height to auto. So you can see that those that space has been removed. For the button styles, let's just add some styles right here. So set the cursor to pointer, the border should be none, The outline should be none as well. I'll set the background color to transparent. I'll set the color to white. So we'll get rid of this. And for the A tag, we need to get rid of the underline right here. So we'll set the text decoration to none, no text align. Text decoration to none. And we also want to set it to display of inline block so that we can add padding, because by default it's being displayed inline. And we'll do that for both the A tag and the span tag as well, because we'll be adding our span tag as we progress. So we'll set the display to inline block. All right, cool. So I believe those are the global styles. If we come across anyone, we just add it right here. So we also have some utilities as well. I will just leave this now, and as we are styling the header section, we'll come back to it. Or instead, if we come to the header section now, see that we'll have this container right here. So you can just come here and say container, and we'll set the max width of the container to be 1440 pixels, and we'll set the margin inline to also for the left and y as is, and we'll set the padding inline to 1 rem. So you can see we have some spacing right here. The reason we don't have it on this home section is because we didn't add the container right here, so it's affecting just the header section, and we need to get rid of this bullet point. So you can come right here and say the list should be none. That's gone. All right, so for the header section, we'll bring in the header class. I'll set the position to be fixed, because if I reference back to this, you see as we move, it's not going anywhere, but we're just having this background that's coming in as we scroll. So set it to fixed. The top should be 0, left should be 0, the width should be 100%. I will give this a highs index of like 999 so that it stays at the top at all times. And also has a transition of all says was 3.2 easing out, because we'll be adding the background on scroll later on. So for the header content, so we don't have an header content, so what I will do is I'll grab this to this and cut it out and create the header double underscore content, and paste this back in so that we can add the display of flex so that everything will stack side by side. So I can come here and say header underscore content, set this to display of flex. You see that everything is stacking side by side now. We'll align items and set to center. Justify content will be space between, and we'll add a padding block which is for the top and bottom. So we'll set this to like 2 rem. All right, cool. Don't worry about this. We'll fix this as we progress. So let me just open this a bit. All right. So for the header content, we want to target the logo class, specifically the image inside. And let's just set the width to 90 pixels. So let's style these icons right here. So for the icons, I just say icons. I'll call this menu icons, and we'll give this a higher Z index as well, like 200. And for the menu icons, say icons, so we're targeting the individual icon. I will set the font size to, like, let's say 1.5 or 2, right? Yeah, so this works. So for this nav bar right here, write the CSS in such a way that it's going to work for both mobile and desktop. So typically, I do this most times, where I will have a nav links for the mobile and have for desktop, which is not bad. But when I'm using vanilla CSS, I just like doing this once and do most of the heavy lifting from the CSS. So specify the nav bar right here. I will bring in that class and set the position to fixed as well. Top 0, the left will be 0. Set the width to 100%. I will set the height to 100 VH, which will take the entire viewport height. So let's see. So it's basically taking from this part all the way down to this part. So let me try and add a background color, if that's going to take effect. So you can see right here, it's taken from here to here, and the width is 100% right here. So also want to add display of flex. That's why we set this right here, and we'll align items to center. We'll add justify content. I will set it to flex end this time, so that basically the content will be aligned center and it will be flexed, not in this start. Now you come to the end right here, and we want to hide it on mobile. So we'll say transform, translate X. I will set this to 190 point, let's just say 0.25 rem, and also add the transition of transform, and this will happen on 0.5 seconds, easing out. So we're not seeing it right here, but let me comment this out for now because we want to still style this a bit. So let's also add a class to show it as well. So we'll say nav and we'll say show menu. We'll add it shortly. So we'll say transform and we'll say translate X and set it back to 0. Then for the menu itself, we'll set the background color to the 700, which is the same as the body. Then we'll set the border left, set it to 1 pixel solid, and we'll select 400 so that we can see the line. You can see the line is right here, but it's not taking the entire weight. So let me even make this 2 so that it will be obvious right here. So change this back to 1.5, and now we set the height to 100%, and we set the padding top to 8 rem, and the padding left we set it to 1.5 rem so that we'll have more breathing room. So you can see, and we need to expand the width a bit, so you can do that by just saying which should be like 60%, so that we'll have more room right here. So for the list items, you can just grab the menu and say list item, and let's add a margin bottom, set it to 1 rem. So right now it's adding 1 rem, 1 rem, 1 rem. Then we don't necessarily need the 1 rem right here because there's nothing underneath. So can do that by just saying target or the list item, but don't target the last child. So you get rid of the one right here. Then for the individual a tag, you can just set the text transform to capitalize. The color should be white. Font size can be 1 rem. Then the font width set it to 500. Then transition set to color, say 0.38 seconds is out. All right, cool. But now we don't have these hover states right now, so we can add that by saying menu and grab the overlink and set it to the primary 400. And while we are there, we also need to set the active link to have the same color right here. So we'll say menu, say active right here. I will just copy this and paste it right here. Right, cool. So we've not created this active class, and we've not also created this show menu. So let's create that now. So we're going to this nav right here. I want to do a couple of things. So first of all, we'll go back to the header component and pass in the is clicked state. So this should be is clicked. So we'll pass this right here so that it's going to keep track of when we open or close the nav. So we can create a type for it, or rather, since it's one type, let's just come here and destructure it. So we can say is clicked. I'll come here and say is clicked should be a boolean type. So we can come to this class, this nav tag right here, and get rid of this, use backticks and bring in the nav, and let's just accept this. So we say if it's clicked, they want to show this menu. So we can come back to this global. So we want to show this and close this out. So break this right here. So basically it's going to hide by default, but if it's clicked, we want to set it to the default state. So we can save this, and when we click on this, you see it's coming in, and no close, go out. So we also want to keep track of the active link or the active nav item. So we can do that by coming here and storing that in a state as well. So we'll say this should be active and set active. Then we'll set it to the default, which is the home, and we need to bring in the use states right here. So basically we want to make this active, or whatever one that is being targeted, and want to smooth scroll to that particular section, as you can see right here. So I will come underneath and create a function called let's call this smooth scroll. I'm bad at naming this, so let's call it smooth scroll 2. I think it makes more sense. Then we just pass in a target ID rather, and this will be a string. So basically we want to get the ID of whatever link that is being targeted. So I'll accept this right here. So we're going to grab the element that is being passed, which will be from this home, about, my works, or contact. Then we'll say if target element, then we want the window dot scroll to, and we'll set this to top. I'll grab that target element and say offset top, and we'll take minus 70 from this. So this 70 right here is basically accounting for the fixed stuff we gave. So it's accounting for that height of this fixed header section. And lastly, what we have to do now is to store that target ID on this sect active so that we can use the active state. So passing the target ID. So now, in order for us to use it, we can just come right to this A tag and say on click. Okay, so basically I'm just calling this smooth scroll and passing the name, which will be either of these when we click on them. Another thing we want to do is to say class name, and also use backticks right here, and we'll say if that actual link is active, or if that active is equals to the name, then we want to bring in the active class, else do nothing. And also we can now come to this global.css and go back to the top and add a scroll behavior of smooth, so that it will smoothly scroll to that particular section. So it's not going to take effect right now, but I'll add more content, you see. But right now you can see that the active state is working. All right, cool. So as we progress to bigger screens, we want this to go away and we want to show the nav links. So to do that, we head back to our CSS file. I believe that's where we are. And we'll add the media query. I will say at media, I will say min width, I will say from 768 pixels and up. We first of all want the container to have a width of 768, and the margin inline should be auto. I'm sorry guys if you are hearing a loud noise, it just started raining all of a sudden, so bear with me. So if we come back to our browser, you notice that the content was adjusted based on the width right here. So we can now target the nav bar and say we set the position back to relative, and we'll set the transform, I'll set the translate x to 0, I will set the height to 100%. Okay, we are halfway there. Then what we want to do is to get rid of this nav, of these menu icons rather. So we can do that by saying menu icons, set to display, set to none. That's gone. And for the menu itself, we can now set the display to flex, align items to center, while they justify content, and set it to end. So this is what we have so far. We set a gap or add a gap of 1.4 rem to add some spacing between them, and get rid of the padding. It should be 0. Background color should be transparent, and the border left we added, so we say border left. Let's just specify the color and set it to transparent as well. Cool. So for this, remember I said we added margin bottom to everything except this last one. So we can just come back right here and say menu, list items, and say not last child, not last child. I'll set the margin bottom to 0. All right, cool. Now for when we get to a much bigger screen, we want this to start somewhere here, because this is still using the 768 pixel threshold. So what we'll do is to come here and say at media, set the main width, say from 200 pixels and up. Grab the container and set the width to 1000 pixels, or you can use whatever value you feel works for you, but this works for me. All right, cool. So the last thing we want to do is to add the scroll event. So as you can see for this, you can see as we scroll, we see a background. Then when we scroll up back, that background goes away. So for us to implement that, we need to go to the header component, and we can just keep track of when we are scrolling. So we say scrolling and set scrolling. This will be use state and it will be false. Then we want to watch for side events when we move our mouse down. So we can do that inside use effects, open this right here, and this takes in and this will take in an empty array, because we want this to run only once. So inside it, we can create a function called undo scroll, and this is going to be an arrow function. And inside this, we can just do a quick check to see if the window scroll y, so the y-axis is greater than 100. So if it's greater than 100, we want to set scrolling to true. Let's just make this orderly, so we can just say here should be is scrolling, and here should be set is scrolling. All right, so if the window is less than, we can just say else. We just set is scrolling, set is scrolling, set scrolling back to false. So now what we want to do is to add the event listener. So we say window, I think I'll just accept this. So we want to listen on scroll, and basically when we scroll, we'll call this undo scroll function, and also want to return and remove the event listener to avoid memory leaks. All right, cool. So for this to work, we need to come to this header right here, and I'll put this in the curly bracket, and I think I will just accept this. So if we're scrolling, we'll call this CSS class that we are going to create in a minute. So let's go back to globals.css. So go under the header. Let's just do this here. So header does scrolling. Was it scrolling? Yeah. So scrolling. Then we'll set the background color to the secondary 700, which is the same as the background of the body, but we'll make it obvious by adding a box shadow. Say 0, 2 pixels for the Y. The blur should be 2 pixels. Then we'll add a RGB, and let's just make this like 0.3. Alright, so we don't have a lot of content, that's why we can't see it. But what I would do to test it out is to go to the index file, and I will just say lorem, let me just do 1000, save. So now as we scroll, this is not coming in. And why is that? Because we've not saved the header file. So let's try that one more time. So now you can see it's working. So I can come back and I can Ctrl Z this back to the initial. Alright, so that is about that for the header section. Alright, so the next section we'll be building is this hero section. So come back and we'll go to our VS Code, and I'll create a new folder called sections. So if you don't want to do that, you can create it inside this component, but I like to separate my sections inside a different folder. And inside the sections, I will create a new file called hero.astro. And now basically want to create this right here. So we'll have a section with a class of hero, not class, and we'll also give it an ID of home, so that when we click on it to go back to that section, and inside it we'll bring in the container and also create another div, the class of hero content, and inside this div we'll have an h1 tag that says dynamic logo design for your brand. And if we go back to the design, you notice that this has the primary color, the logo design. So we can copy and cut this, or let me show you something cool. You can just highlight both of them, hold Ctrl Shift and click on P, then you select wrap with abbreviation, and now you can just wrap this inside the span tag and hit enter. Alright, cool. Then we also have this button that said explore work. So this will be an A tag, and we'll just call this shouldn't go anywhere, or this should go to the work. Yeah, this should go to work, and we'll call this explore what again? Explore works. Alright, cool. So before we style it, let's just make sure it's showing on our page. So we'll go to the index.astro file, get rid of this one, say here should be hero section, say this should be hero, and now the content should show right here, but we need it to be at the center. So bring in my dev tools and take this here, and for the styling we'll go back to the hero. Since we have, sorry I'm going all over the place, since we have more than one button right here, I'm thinking we'll put this inside the component, but let's just style this first. So bring in the style tag right here, and remember this is scope styling, so all the styling we'll be doing will only affect this file. So we'll say hero, and inside this hero we'll give it a height of 100 VH to take the entire viewport, and we'll set the display to be flex. We'll align items to center, just justify content should be center, and we'll also center the text as well. So let's take a look. So our content is being centered. Now we want to add the background image right here. So I already have it right here, so I can just bring that in by saying background, and this should be URL, and folder is go back 2-step, I'll say assets, and we'll say hero bg.png, yeah, png. Then let's just see if it's coming true first. So it's coming true. Then we'll add some styles for the background. We'll say the background position should be left, the background repeats should be no repeats, the background size should be cover, so that you cover the entire page. So now what we want to do is to set a max width to this hero content so that it doesn't go above a certain width that we'll give to it. So come underneath and say hero underscore content. I'll set the max width to, let's just say 800 pixels, and we'll set the margin inline to auto, so that when we get to 800 pixel, it will stop. So you might not see the impact right now, but when we increase the font, you'll notice the change. So can increase the font by saying, I think this is the only H1 right here, so we can just target it directly by saying H1, and say font size should be 2.5 rem, 2.5 rem. Then the line height, select like 1.3. Then the margin bottom will be 1 rem. Cool. So when we get to 800, you see it stops and it's like this, but when we get to bigger screen, we'll still increase the size of the heading one. So let's add the primary color to this span tag. So we can just say span and set the color to be the primary color 400. So it's coming in right here. So now we say at media, and from 768 pixels and up, we'll grab the H1 and increase the font size like 3.5 rem. So as it gets bigger, you see the size increases like this. Cool. So for the button, we won't be styling the button yet because it's reused on another section. So it's basically a utility. So we just go to the globals.css and go to right here. So we say, did you give it a class? Let me see. We should have class of btn. So we say button, and we'll give this a background color of primary color. The color itself should be white. Padding, we say 7.0 we'll say 0.75 rem for the top and bottom. Then for the left and right, you can just say 1.5 rem. Then we'll also add the border radius of like 5 rem. We'll increase the font weight to 600. Add a little spacing between the letters. Let's just say 1 pixels, and we'll set the font size to 1 rem, which I think is the default font size. So yeah, cool. So now, since this will be reusable, you can just create a component, and this is useful because if you have a bunch of buttons that are styled like this and the text is just changed, it's good to just create a component for it. So call this component, make sure you're creating inside this component folder. So call this button.astro, and for this it's fairly easy, so we can just cut this one out for now, paste it right here. We'll leave the class as it is, and let's just bring in the code fence. For this href, we'll just pass in an href right here. We've not defined it yet. For the name or text, let me just call it text. And while we're there, it just came to my mind, let's also add an area label as well. So we'll say area label, and we'll set it to the text as well. Read the text. So I just create the props by saying interface props, and text should be string, yeah, and this one then you can just destructure it from Astro props. So say this should be text, it should be href. So cool. Now we can use it here by just bringing in that button and passing in the name or text rather. And what did we call it again? Explore works. So say explore works, and the href will be work. So nothing should change, and it should be the way it is. All right, that's for the header section. Next is this about section. So let me bring this down and come to these sections right here, and I'll call this about the Astro. So give this a section tag with a class of about and also an ID. Set the ID to about me. So make sure, why is this not saving? Let me bring this down. All right, so make sure the ID matches what you have right here. So inside this section, we'll bring in the container class that already wrote a CSS style for. Then for mobile, this will, let me just show you. So for mobile, this is stacking on this right here. On desktop, they are it's on 2 columns right here. So we can just give this a class of grid. You can come up with a better name, but I'm not good with names. So this will identify, let us know that okay, when we get to a certain breakpoint, we'll stack them on 2 columns. Then inside this grid class, we'll have an about. I'll just accept this and have the closing div right here. We'll have an about content, and inside it we'll have an h2. So guess I should switch off this stuff. So we'll call this about me. All right, then we'll also have some text that I will copy from here. And for the button, since we already have the button style, we can just bring it right here. And we'll say the text should be discover more. And let's just set the href to just go back to the index route. Then underneath this, make sure you're outside the about contents. We can just create a new div and we'll call this one about image, and inside here we'll bring in the image, and we'll be using the image component from Astro. So make sure it's this one right here and not this one. So we'll have the source, and the source will be the image, and since we're using the component, we can just make that image right here by saying import, let's call it about image from assets, then we'll say about image.jpg. I'm bringing that about image right here, and the alt should be the about image. You can also set a width and a height so that you don't have that cumulative layout shift, but I will just get rid of it because Astro loads faster, so we'll need it for this part. So I believe that's for that. Then we just need to bring it in right here. So go back to our index or Astro. This should be about section, and this will be about. I'll just bring this in right here. Cool. So let's check this out. All right, so we need to push this down, and we'll also add a utility class. So you can go to about, and right here I will just say this should be pt, and I'll call this section. So we'll add some padding top to this section right here. So we'll go to the styles or global CSS, and we say pt section, just say padding top of 7 rem. All right, so we can get to styling the about section now. So we say style, and we'll grab the h2. I will set the margin bottom to like 1 rem. Also grab the about content, and we'll set the margin bottom to 2 rem. Also align it to the center when we are on mobile. And for the paragraph, we can just say yeah, we'll just grab this and we'll give it a margin bottom of 2 rem. For the image, we want to add this blob shape right here, and there are 2 of them. So we'll grab the about image, not the image itself, so this div. I'll give it a position relative because we'll add some pseudo classes that will position to absolute. So I say about image, then we'll say before, I'll set the content to nothing, then we'll set the position to absolute. The top for now will be 0. I just want to show you how it's going to look like. Then we'll set the left to 0. We'll also give it a width of like 25 pixels, and we'll set the height to 100 pixels, and we'll set the background. Is it background? There's no background, it's border. So we say border, we'll say let's just say 1.5 pixels solid, and we'll say primary CLR 400. So let's see if it's coming in. So it's not showing up. Why is that? So let's see what's going wrong right here. About image, right? So let me refresh this. You know what, let me increase the number and see, maybe it's from this place. So we'll say 50%, and let me just add a negative value right here and say like 0.05 RAM. So let's see, still not coming in. Oh my bad, this should be solid, not an E to it, so it should work right here. So we necessarily didn't have to set this, but we'll leave this as it is because I think we got the right figure, I guess. We also need to center it vertically using this transform and adding translate Y so that it should be centered vertically like so. And also add a border radius. I'll set it to 5 rem. Alright, cool. So we also need another one for the after. So I will copy this and change this. So after, and for the after, we'll just make some few changes. So for this top now, we'll set this to like negative 2.5 rem. Get rid of this transform. I'll set this to right instead of left. I'll set this to like 2 rem. The width this time will be let's just set it to 20, and the height set it to about 80. So let's see what we have. Okay, so we need to rotate it to fit well, so we can just do that by using the rotate property. I'll say rotate, we'll just say 90 degrees. All right, cool. I guess this works. All right, we also want to add a border radius to the image itself. So we'll select the about image class and we'll target the image itself. I'll just set the border radius to 0.5 rem this time. So let's take a look. Now, I guess it's added it. Let me make it a big number to see if it's showing. Okay, yeah, so it worked. All right, so that's for the mobile. We also want to increase the size of this H2 as well. So let me open this a bit more. I think let's just start from right here. It's not bad. So say at media, and from 768 pixels and up, we'll set the text align for the H2 back to the left, and we'll also do this outside, should be here. So the about content itself also set it to the left as well. So the next thing to do is we want to increase the font of this and this. So I'll go back to the H2 and let's just say the font size should be like 2.5 rem on bigger screens. Okay, then the I think there's only one p tag right here. Yeah, so okay, since we already did like this, let me just copy this and say font size should be like 1.5 one rem. All right, cool. So we want to add a display of grid to put them on two columns. So we can do that by grabbing the grid class. I'll set this to display of grid. So unlike flex, when you add display of grid, nothing happens. But in order to set these to two columns, we can just say grid template columns, and we'll say repeat to 1fr. So repeat two columns with one fraction each. You can also do this like so. It will work fine, but I like using this. So say repeat to 1fr, and this is not looking nice, so we'll add a gap of like 4 okay. I also need to center this image properly, so we can do that directly by saying place is it place items? Yeah, place items, set this to center. All right, so bigger screens, it looks almost the same as this. All right, cool. All right, the next section we'll be creating will be this project section or my work section, and we are going to be using Astro content collection. And Astro content collection is just a top level directory that is reserved inside the source folder, and you can store any content inside as long as those contents are related to things like blog articles, just data files in general, and the files can end with this .md extension, .mdx, .yaml, and .json. So for this project, we'll be making use of this .json file because we'll be storing just the raw data right here. So I don't want to bore you with all these talks because I've already gone through it. I will just walk you through as we progress. So go back to our VS Code and make sure we're inside the source folder, and I'll create the content folder, and inside this content folder I'll create the actual content. So ours will be projects, and we'll have the project. So I store each and every one of them on my notepad that will just copy. So cut this one, and inside this project folder I'll create a new file called project1.json, paste it in. So this naming convention is what is recommended by Astro. It's not like a must that you must do it, but they recommend using a consistent naming, which is a lowercase and dashes, as you can see right here. We'll create another file, call this one project2.json, project3.json. Get rid of this square brackets. Last one will be project4.json. So I'll go back. So I'll cut out this one, and I'll go to project 2 and paste it right here. Save. Same for this, for the third one. Then this is coming from my own end, so it does not recognize it as a word. I'll just add it to my workspace and do this for this. All right, cool. So you can see we have the images that are coming. So what we'll do is that I will drag this images folder inside this project right here. So make sure it's in the projects. So now for us to utilize this our content collection, we need to define a collection. And if I go back to the docs, you can see they are telling us to create a config.ts file, and that's the config.ts file is a special file that Astro will use to load and configure your content collection. So you have type safety and those other cool stuff as well. So for us to do that, we need to come inside the content folder, not the project, the content folder, and create our config.ts. And now we can head back, and I will just copy this, paste this here, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. And in our case, we'll call this project collection, and this will be project. This will be project collection. So we're just basically exporting it right here. So inside here, we want to define our collection, and we can do that by setting the type first. As you can see, we're already having type safety. So you see we have content, content layer, and data. So if you're working with MD files or MDX, you should use content. But if you're using YAML files or .json files, just use data. Now we want to define the schema. So I will say schema, and I'm going to return the image first. And the reason why I'm returning the image is for us to have type safety when we're using the image components. And after doing this, I guess it's not in the docs. If you add the image, you need to return this Z object, and basically we need to import it right here. So Z is short for Zod, and Zod is basically a validator library that used to validate different types. So we can say z.object and open an object right here, and we'll pass in the content we need. So we need string, we need client. This will also be string as well. We need the work. This will be string as well. They add a comma right here, so it should be comma here. We need the main image. This will also be a string. We need the other images, and this will be an array because it's more than one. And sorry about this should not be string, this should be image, because we just created it right here. And since we're passing it right here, we no longer need to add the Z to it anymore. So we'll do the same right here as well. But if you are not using the image component from Astro, you can default it to string, like so. Then which other details do we have? Story content, story title, story content, and we also have the day one content, and this would be string as well. So now let's go to our section and create the project. So I'll call this project dot astro I'm bringing our code fence or front matter. And what we want to do right now is to get this collection we've created, and we can do that by importing the get collection from Astro content. And now we can await the get collection. So since there's an await here, you would think you would need to add an async, but Astro has a top level async, so you don't need to do that in this situation. And you see it's accepting this as project, but if I get rid of this and hold Ctrl and hit spacebar, you would also see the types right here. And if you don't get that, you just need to restart your server. So I will just end mine and restart it again. All right, so let's try it again now. So you see the project is coming in because we are exporting it from here. All right, so you can even console dot log out the project, and for it to work we just need to go back to index to Astro file and call this project section and just pass in the projects right here. So now we just need to go back and allow this to refresh. All right, so let's check now. You can see all the data are coming in. Cool. So now what we need to do is to bring in the section tag, and we'll give this a class projects, and we'll also give this a class of the PT section to add padding to the top, and we'll also give this an ID of my work, and inside it we'll bring in the container. Inside the container we'll have an h2 that says my projects highlights. All right, so let's see if those things are coming in. Okay, so as you can see, if I go back to the original, if I go back to the one we're using as reference, you see we have two columns. So we just come right here and put this inside the grid class, and we just map over the projects. So we say project, and what we'll do now is that we'll create a project listing component for each project, and we'll pass in the project, which should be project. So we don't have this right now, so go to the components folder and create that. So say project listing for Astro, and let's just show something right here. I just say hey, so we can import it now. Okay, so it's not giving us, I don't know why it does this most times, so we just import it by ourselves by saying import project listing from, go back to step, then we'll go to the components folder and say project listing.astro. All right, so if we check it out now, we should see that everything is showing right here. So we'll go to this styles tag and we'll target the H2 and set the font size to 2 rem. Then we'll set the text align to center. Then we'll add a margin bottom of 2 rem. So let's see what we have. Okay, cool. We'll add a higher. Okay, you know what, since we are using this right here, why don't we just have a utility class? So I can just cut this out, go to my globals of CSS, and I'll put this right here. Then I can go to my about.astro file and I will cut this one. It should still be at left, but in my globals file I can just put this right here. Sorry, this should be H2 and paste this right here. So if we save and go back and let me try and refresh, so nothing changed. And why is that? Okay, I think we've not saved the file. So now if we go back, you can see it's coming through. Cool. All right, so now the only thing we need to add inside this style guy is the grid, the styles for the grid class. So we say this should be display grid and this should be inside the media query. So we say media, I'll say main width from 768 pixels and up. Paste this again. I'll say grid template columns should repeat to 1fr. I'll add a gap of like 1.5 rem. Cool, so let's see. All right, it's coming together. So we just need to go to this project listing component and pass in these projects right here. So we just need to say interface, say props, and this should be project because this is a project right here. And for us to know the types of project, because right now we don't know the types for each properties that's inside the project. So we can get the types by using the collection entry from the Astro content. So we can do that by saying collection entry, and now we can infer the projects right here. So now we can destructure projects. Say this will be from Astro props, and we can now destructure all the content we need. So we can do that by saying project dot, so we should get type safety now. So we're working with data, not collection. So say data, and now we can have access to all the properties right here. So we say I think we need the title, the main image, the client, and work. If we need anyone else, we'll just add them. And this right here should be an article instead of a section because it's an individual project, so it should be inside an article tag. And we'll give this a class of projects. And mind you, and I don't think we need this project class because we didn't use it here, so there's no need for it. So get rid of this one, and inside here we'll have an a tag and what will be inside the A tag will be the image, right? And this will be the image component from Astro, and the width we'll set it to 500. We'll set the height to 500 as well. I'll set the source to the main image, and we'll set the alt to the title. Then for this href, we want each page to be dynamic, and for us to do that, we can get rid of double quotes and use backticks, and we'll go to /projects / we'll bring in the $sign and pass in project.id, not slug. There's no slug right here. And let's give this an area label as well. Set it to the title, so this should be title. So this was the part we just did. So now we want to build this right here, and you can see when we hover on this, we have this line that kind of transition up and down as we hover on it. So you can do that by just copying this A tag, because when we click on this, we still get redirected to that particular project. So paste this here, and for this we just pass in an h3, and this will be title. Inside here now we'll have a details class to store the details. It should be details, and we'll have a class called flex, and inside the flex we'll have a p tag for the client, and then we'll have a span tag for the client. We'll also do the same for the work as well. So this will be work, and this will be work. So I guess that's all. That's it. So now we need to style them. Come to the style tag, and we'll target each project except the last one. Add the margin bottom of 3 rem. We'll grab the image class and add the width, set it to 100%. Let me see if I added the image class. Did I add the image class? Nope, I didn't add it, so it should be here. So now we'll target the image itself and add the margin bottom of 1.5 rem. Add the border radius of 0.5 rem, and also set the width to 100%. So looking nice. Now we need to grab the title right here, and we also didn't give this a class as well, so this should be title. These are the things that happen when you try to do stuff from your head. So we'll grab the title class, and we'll give this a position of relative, because we'll be positioning this absolute to it, and set the color to white. So this should be secondary 100, while the margin bottom of 1 rem. So we just set the font size to 1.5 rem, and we'll add the transition, and we'll be transitioning the color, say 3.0 seconds is in out. All right, so we need to add that line right here. So to do that, I can just come to the title again and say after, like so, and the content should be empty. We'll set the position to absolute, set the top to 0. Okay, so it's on the right, so this should be right. Set it to 0. The width should be 100 pixels. Then the height should be 4 pixels. I'll set the border radius to like 0.4 rem, or let's use 0.5 rem. Then we'll set the background color to the primary 400, and we also add a transition as well, but this time it will be for the transform property, because when we hover on it, we want it to move up a little bit. Right now it's right here, so let's add the hover state. So we'll say title, we'll say hover, we'll set the color to the primary color. Then for this line, we'll say title, hover, and we'll say after, and add the transform y, and this should be like -4 pixels. Is it 4 pixels? Yeah. So it's looking cool. So for this detail section, we just need to grab the flex class and say this should be display. Set it to flex, align items should be center and not justified. This should be center. Then we'll add a gap of like 1 rem. So let's see how it looks. Okay. Then we also need to add margin bottom to the flex class, but not the last one. So we'll say margin bottom, and let's just say it should be 0.5. And also we want to change the color of the p tag, so this will be the secondary color 300. All right, cool. So we need to create the dynamic page for each of these projects, and to do that in Astro, we need to come to the pages folder, because this is where you create all your pages. And if you are familiar with Next.js, this is basically simple, where you use the square bracket to identify or to let Astro know that that exact file is a dynamic route. So we can do that by saying make sure this is in a square bracket. In our case, ours was id, so say id dot Astro. So if it's server-side rendered, you would need to pass in these 3 dots, but ours is from our project right here. So what we need to do now is to bring in our code fence, and we'll import the get collection from Astro. We also need the layout as well from layouts. Was it layout or layout? Okay, this is layout. Then we'll say layout dot Astro. All right, so let's just bring the layout in. So we can do that by saying layout. So for some reason it's not recognizing this. So let's see. Where is it stored again? Okay, layout. The layout, that's true. Yeah, so the route is correct. So let's try that one more time. So go back to level. Then okay, this should be just one just to level, not on that level deep. All right, so in order for us to have to bring in the content, we need to make sure that the params matches the ID of the files on our content collections. So this is what I mean. We'll first of all export an async function, and we'll bring in get static path. So all these are inside the docs, in case if you're wondering how I know this stuff. And we basically want to do the same thing we did the last time by bringing our projects, and we want to return the projects and map over each project. And this time, let me just accept this. We'll look for the params and make sure, in our case, we are using an ID, but if you are using slug, you pass in the slug. So we'll say ID and we'll pass in that project dot ID, and we'll also need the project. So we'll store the project inside props right here. So now that we have this, we can now come right here and destructure projects from astro.props. And we can also get the params if we want to see if it matches. So we can do that by saying astro.params, and you can see the ID. So I can just console the log the project, and for the ID, I guess I can just even do both of them right here. So say layout, and for the title, we can pass in it like this, and you can still further the structure is the way we do it right here. So let me just do it right here. So I can copy this one and do it like so, and now instead of title, we can just wrap this inside title like this. So, and let me just for now pass in the ID. So we don't need this console.log. Alright, so let's test it out to see if it's going to work. Let's click on this. Okay, 404 not found. Why is that? Slash project slash. Oh, my bad. This should be inside a project folder. This should be wrapped inside of it because we have this project file, then inside it we have the ID, and then the ID is dynamic. So this layout, now we have to go back 2 step. All right, so let's try it again. Let's see. So we're having that project coming in. Cool. So we no longer need these params. We do need the title because that's what it's showing right here. So we'll leave this page open as well. Then inside this layout, we'll have a section with a class of pt section, and inside it will have the container class. I also have a title as well. It should be title, and inside it will have an h2, which will be the title. So if we go back to this one, let me open this. See that I also have this go back link right here. So we need to put it inside here and say this should be back / and add the my work not work, and let's add an area label and say this should be, just say back to my work, or go back to the work section. Then we just say go back. Then outside the title div, we'll bring in the image component from Astro. I'll pass in the source, and this should be the main image. We'll add the width of 500, height of 500. I'll also add the class. I'll set it to main image. This should be in a string. Main image, and the alt, let's just leave it at the title. Alright, so under the image component, we'll create another div with a class of project story. Then it has an h3 with the story title. So let's bring in the story title. And we also have the story content. Well, I think we have the what's it called again? Yeah, so day one title and day one content. Alright, cool. So we need to pass in the story title right here. We have a p tag, pass in the story content. I also have the other images. I didn't bring that in. Let me just put it right here. Say other images. And for the other images, we'll put inside the div the class of other images, and we'll just loop or map over them. So we can say other images. Let me accept this, and I will just copy what we have here, paste it here. But this should be image. I'll leave this one at title. Then outside this div, we'll have a class of day one. Was it the one title? Yeah, it's the one title. And we'll have an h3 with the day one title and a paragraph of the day one content. So let's take a look at what we have. Alright, cool. So let's get to styling them. So head back and bring in our style tag, and we'll grab the h2 and I'll set the text align to left. So the reason why I'm modifying this is because what we added in global CSS was center, so we're just modifying the one we need to make changes to. So we'll set the margin bottom to 1 rem. For the anchor link, we'll set the color to the secondary 100, which is the white, while the transition color 0.3 seconds, ease in out. Then when we hover on it, you have the primary color 400. For the image, we have the border radius of 1 rem, and the width should be 100%. For the title, we'll add the padding top and set it to like 3 rem. The padding bottom, set it to like 2 rem. So let me show you guys what we are doing so far. So we are currently styling the title, right? So we want to add this line right here. So we can do that by saying border bottom, and this should be 1 pixel solid. Let's use the 400. So it's showing right here. So for it to come out well, we just add a margin bottom of like, let's say 3 rem. So you can now see it clearly. For the main image, we'll set the margin inline to auto, so that it should be at the center at all times. Then we'll add the margin bottom for 1.5 rem. And I guess I didn't get rid of the, okay, yeah. So let me get rid of the class right here. For the other images, we don't need the main image class for this part. Alright, so for the project story, I say project story, then we'll add the max width and set it to, let's say 700 pixel. We'll also grab this, but this time we'll set the margin bottom to 2 rem. So let's see, did we save the file? Nope. Alright, so as you can see, this project story is already the same with this day one. So instead of us having 2 classes, let me just call this one story. So we'll call this story. So let's see, we've not created this footer section yet, but I think this one already looks nice. Then what we need to do right now is to grab the story header 3, and let's add the margin bottom of 1 rem. Increase the font size to 1.6 rem. Alright, so for the other images, you can just say other images, which is the div, add the margin bottom of 2 rem. So save the file again, and it's coming in. Then we'll grab all the images that are inside this other images div, and we'll leave out the last one, and we'll add a margin bottom of 1 rem. So this is for the mobile. We want it to stack one after another. Then on bigger screens and up, so say media, say min width, say 768 pixels. We'll grab the other images class, and I guess this works. Let's see. All right, so let's just reduce this one to 1 rem. So you can just play with the numbers if you choose to. So let's say it looks on mobile. All right. So let's test this out. Okay, so before we wrap up with the project section, let's add the view transition so that when we click on this, the page doesn't have to load every time. So we can just do that by going to the layout, Astro, and importing the view transitions from Astro view transitions. And what you just need to do, let's just do this. I think it's normally done after the head. Save view transition, save this. So right now, if we click on this, see it's very easy and it looks really nice. All right, that's it for the work section. All right, so we want to create this testimonial section. So I'll head back to VS Code and make sure I'm inside my sections folder, and I'll call this should be a file, not a folder. So see testimonial Astro. Take a close look at this. You see that these are two different data. So I have them stored on my notepad, so I can go right here and just copy both of them. I'll go back to VS Code and I'll store them inside the testimonial data and make sure we have the code fence right here. So say testimonial data, I'll just paste them in. And they also have two images we should bring in as well. So say import person one from asset. So go back 2 step and we'll call this person one, duplicate this, and this should be person two. All right, cool. So we can come right here and bring in a new section, the class of PT section, and bring in the container, and we'll have an H2 that says what people are saying. Before we do that, we have to bring it on our index Astro file. So we'll say it should be testimonial section, should be testimonial. So we can view it now. All right, so let's see. All right, so let's see if this one, I'll just copy this text instead, and I'll come here and just replace it with this one. All right, cool. So stay inside the container div, we'll create a new div with a class content, and right here we'll just map over each data. So say testimonial data.map, then we'll pass in the data, and inside here we'll create a new div with a class of testimonial for each testimonial, and inside it we'll have a rating, a div with a class of rating, and we'll give this an area label as well. I'll call this one let's say stars, or you know what, let's just use the amount of rating as you can see right here. So we have the name, the rating handle, the image, and the description. So open the curly brackets and use backticks, and we'll just say data dot rating, and we'll just say stars. So in our case, this will be 5 stars. And make sure this div is not closed, because we'll have a self-closing one right here. And inside this rating, we'll just create an array constructor, and we'll set the array to whatever length we have, and we'll fill it with let's just fill it with 0. So basically now what we just have is something like this. So we have 0 0 0 5 times, and we don't need this 0. We actually want the length. So in order to do that, we need to map over this, and we'll use this underscore. So this underscore will simply ignore the 0 and use the actual length right here. So I can just open parentheses, and I think we also need closing one right here, and we'll pass in that style by using the default awesome icon. So this will be FAS FA star. So if we save now and go back, let's see, so we are having the 5 star, but we need it to have the primary color. So instead of us just styling it right here, let's just do it inline. So we can just say the style should be, get rid of this double quote, and we'll say color should be the var primary color 400. So let's take a look. Cool. All right, so underneath this rating div, we'll have a p tag to hold the description. So give this a class of description, and we'll just pass in the data dot description. And now we'll have a div. For this time, let's just use the period sign and give this a class of person. Set this to person, and inside this div we'll have the image. Let's import it, and the width, set it to 500, the height to 500. And the source should be data.image, and the auth should be the name, so data.name. Then underneath we'll create another div with a class of name. Don't know why the class is not coming in. And inside this, you just want to show the name and the handle. So create an empty div, bring in an h4 tag, say this will be data.name, and outside this we'll also have a p tag, and we'll pass in the handle. So we don't even need this div. I'm very sure we don't need this. So I will save the file right now. All right, so it's looking cool. So let's style it right now. So bring in our style tag. For this section, we'll add the margin bottom of 7 rem. So it's adding 7 rem right here. So which is this space from here to here. So now we grab the content class, set the background to use the secondary color 400. We'll set the padding to 2 rem. Border radius should be 1 rem. And we'll set the position to relative, because we are going to be adding this line. I will be using the pseudo class for it. All right, so For that, we just say content and add the after pseudo class, and the content will be empty. Set the position to absolute. Top should be 50%. Left should also be 50%. Then we want to center it in the middle. So we can do that by saying the transform, translate, and the x should be negative 50 as well as the y, so that it's going to center it both vertically and horizontally. We'll also give it a width of like 95%, not pixels. I will set the height to 2 pixels. And lastly, we set the background to the secondary 300. So let's see. This is for the mobile. So let me even open my dev tool. So if we come to this and view it on mobile, you can see it's like so. Let's go back. I will target the rating class and give this a margin bottom of 100. Alright, we also need to add space between these stars. So I just say rating, select the I tag, and say margin right should be like 0.3 rem. And now we target the testimonial and we'll leave out the last child and add the margin bottom of like 2.5 rem. Alright, cool. So now we'll target the description and set the margin bottom. We'll set the margin bottom to like 1 rem. We'll add font weight, set it to 500. Increase the font size to 1.1 rem, and we'll increase the line height to 1.6. So let's take a look. All right. So for the image, we give it a width of like 40 pixels, and we'll do the same with the height as well. And a cool thing I normally is that I create a variable for it. So I just say here should be 40 pixels, and this should be the size. It should be the size as well. So that when I make changes here, so that I just need to make adjustments once right here. Also set the object fit to cover and set the border radius to 50%. Alright, cool. We just need to add flex right here to position this side by side. And we can do that by saying grabbing the person class and adding display of flex, align items to center, and let's add a gap like 0.5 rem. All right, so for this right here, can just say the name and grab the p. I believe that's what we called it. Yeah, set the color to 200. So it's coming in. I believe that's all for the mobile. So I'll get rid of this and style for bigger screens. So we can come right here and say it's media, same in with 768 pixels and up. We'll grab the content, set the display to grid templates columns should be 21FR gap should be like 3 rem. We'll add a padding block for the top and bottom of like 4 rem. I also add a padding inline for the left and right. I'll set it to 2.5 rem. And instead of doing this, let's just use single property. So we'll say 4 rem, 2.5 rem. Get rid of this. All right, so we need to adjust this line to fit the middle and get rid of this weird space underneath. So we can do that by just grabbing the content after and just inverting the height to 85%. I'll set the width to like 2 pixels. You can see it's coming through already. Now we need to just get rid of this space right here. So we can do that by just grabbing this right here, paste it, I will change it to 0. All right, cool. So that's that for the testimonial section. So we need to create the last section, which is this contact section. So we'll head back and go to VS Code again. And inside the sections, I'm going to create the contact, the Astro. And this is more like a footer section as well. So I think I'll use the footer tag. This ideally should be the footer, but I'll just use the footer tag for everything here. So say footer, I'll also give this a padding top of section and give this an ID and set it to contact. Inside this footer, also bring in the container class and we also have a content. So say content, and inside this content we'll have another div with the class of title. And inside that div we'll bring in an history that says get in touch with me, which is this section right here. Then we'll pass in the mail, so we'll use the a tag and the class, not the href. First of all, bring in the class. This should be mail. Then the href should just take us to mail to, let me just add the domain mail, demo@gmail.com. Then we also need to open it on a blank page, and let's just set this to info at aaron.com. All right, so we also need to bring this in right here as well. So say contact section, this should be contact. So let's see. All right, it's coming in. So right under the title div, still inside the content, create another div with a class of address info, and we'll pass in the logo. So we can do that by just going to our public folder and say .svg, and this will be logo. Then we also have another div just to hold all the content. We won't give it a class, and here we just want to bring in these informations right here. So say it should be an a tag, and this will be tail for phone, and says plus 902 83 83 battery again, then 5.3. Then also let me just copy this and paste it here. Get rid of this. I'll give this class phone. I also have a div to hold the social icons. I'll just call this let me call this social links. So we need 3 icons, so we can just say a times 3, and each of them will have an I tag, not a one I tag with a class. So let's just do it like this. Then this first one won't go anywhere. Then we'll add an area label. You know what? Instead of doing this, why don't we just create one and we'll call this one? It's not going anywhere. I'll say area label Facebook, and inside this we'll have the I tag, and this will be a class FA brands, FA Facebook. Then we'll just copy this 2 more times. Then this next one will be for Twitter, and this will be for Twitter. The last one will be for Instagram. This will be for Instagram. So let's see. All right. Then we make sure we're outside this, and where should we do this? So before the last div, we'll bring a p class with a, we'll bring in a p tag with a class that says copy right. And you know what I'll do? I'll just copy everything right here, paste this right here. I want this year to be dynamic, so we don't have to change it anytime we are in a new year. So we can just do that by saying new date, and we just get the full year. We'll call this. So if we go back, it should show the current year we're on. Cool. So let's style it. So I'm bringing the style tag and the footer. I'll give this a background color and say secondary color and set to a darker color, so 900. Then we'll align everything in the middle. All right. So we'll target the title. Let's add a margin bottom. Set this to 3 rem. All right. So we'll grab the H3 and set the font size to 1.2 rem, and we'll add the margin bottom of like 1.5 rem. All right, cool. So we want to style this mail because I think, yeah. So we grab the mail class and set the font size to 2 rem, and the font weight should be 600. I'll set the color to our primary color 400, and we'll add an underline by setting just the text decoration to underline. So you know what, let me just bring this to mobile view because this is what we are styling currently. All right, so let's see how this looks on mobile as well. So everything is centered, which means we need to center this image as well. So we can do that by just grabbing the image. I think that's the whole image. So we'll set the margin inline to auto, which is left and right, and let's also add the margin bottom of like 1.5 rem. All right. Then for the address info, we'll add a border bottom of 1 pixel solid, and it should be the secondary 400. So let's see. Okay, let's also add the padding bottom of 2 rem. All right. Now we'll grab the phone and let's set the color to white, which is 100, and we'll add a transition color in 3 seconds. Let's use ease in. We'll also bump up the font size by setting it to 1.1 rem. I'll add a margin bottom of 1 rem. All right. Now, when we hover on the phone, we want, let me just copy this and paste this here. So we want to show the primary color. So for the social links, I'll set the display to flex. We'll align items to the center. We'll say justify content should be center. Let's add the gap of 1 rem. All right, so we also need to target the A tag. So we say social links A. I'll set the font size to something bigger, like 1.5 rem. We'll set the color to, I set it to this secondary 100, which is the white, and we'll copy this transition right here. Then when we hover on it, we want to add a transform property to translate it up. So we can do that by just saying social links, this should be a hover, and since we're using that, I think this should be or instead of color, because we'll be transitioning the color and the transform. So we can copy this one again, paste it here. I will say the transform translate y, and this should be negative 0.3 rem. So let's see. All right, so for this copyright, we just need to say copy right and just add the padding of 1 rem to have space around it. All right, cool. So that's that for the mobile styling. Get rid of this, and for bigger screens and up, we'll just say this should be at media, and we'll say min width and say this should be 768 pixels and up. We'll grab the address info class, add a display of flex, then align items should be center, and we'll say you justify content to space between, so that this image can be at this left and this can be right here, but this is not coming the way we want. Okay, we also need to grab the image, and the margin will just unset it. So initially it was inline auto, we'll just set it to the default value, and we'll also increase this font size, I believe. Yeah, so I can just do that by saying is it the H3 or not the mail? We just set the font size to 2.5 rem. Okay, it looks big. And I think let's also reduce the margin bottom of the H3 here as well. So set it to 1 rem. I believe it was, yeah, it was 1.5, yeah. So let's set it to 1 rem. And I think the space for these as well is still big, so just grab the phone. I will set the margin bottom to 0.5 rem. Okay. All right, so let's test out if everything is working. All right, we're basically done. We just want to deploy this project to Netlify, and Astro has an adapter that does the heavy lifting for us, and they haven't sponsored by Netlify. So we can head over to, let me search for adapter on Netlify. So we can just copy this command on our terminal. Let's do this right here, and let's just add it. So we say yes. So we say yes again. All right, so we have it installed, and we're having some errors as well. Okay, we just need to come back here and basically stop this and run this again. I don't know why it does this every time. While this is running, we can come to astro.config, and you can see that it has added this notify adapter for us, and you see that it added the output. So by default, the output was not even here because it's static. And since we are deploying this to a CDN, we have to set the output to server. But like I said, Astro has already done the heavy lifting for us. So what we need to do right now is to go back and create a GitHub repo. So say GitHub. So I'll click on new. So we'll call this portfolio slash website slash YT. So this was the name I used. You can use whatever name you want. And this will be public. We can create a new repo now. So we can copy this command right here because we've already initialized a repo. And what we need to do is to say git add and git commit. So say first commit, and now I'm going to paste all those commands I copied and hit enter. All right, so we can now refresh this page and our project is coming in. So head to Netlify. So apart from Netlify, Astro also has support for other services like Vercel, Dino, GitHub pages, Cloudflare pages. So you can just go through them and use any one you want to. I just like using Netlify because it works fine for me. So I already have an account. If you don't have an account, you should sign up. I also have a video on 3 ways to deploy your application on Netlify. I'll try to link it up somewhere in the card, but I'll just log in because I already have an account. So click on add new site and say import from an existing project, and we'll select GitHub. And if it's your first time, it should prompt you to input your password. Then we'll search for the project. I think I called it portfolio. So we'll search. So this one 6 minutes ago. So for the site name, we'll just use the same name because it doesn't really matter. By the time you're watching this video, I might have already deleted the site. So say portfolio, website, YT. So we'll check for availability. Okay, it's available. We'll leave this as it is. Everything should just be as they are. Then if you have environmental variables, of which we don't on this website, but if you have, you can just add it directly. So what you need to do is to click on deploy. So our site deploy is in progress, so it shouldn't take more than a minute. So let's just chill a bit and come back. All right, so the site is published. We can just click on this to see if we have all what we need. All right, cool. So let's see how it looks on mobile. Okay, we're already having errors already. But let's just see how it looks on mobile first. Okay, it's looking good on mobile. So to fix this error, let's just go back and let me open this. So it's query playable. All right, so let's see. Let me go to that ID. Okay, so what I'm thinking, we didn't even use this right here, so let's get rid of this one. So what I'm thinking is that since our output now, so if we go right here, it's server, we need to pre-render this page. So we can just do that by saying export pre-render equals to true. And this is throwing an error because we need to put this inside the const. All right, so let's just say git commit and just say another commit. All right, so let's go back and go to deploys, and let's wait for it to redeploy again and we'll test it out. All right, it has been published, so let's test it out again and hopefully it should work. So let's click on it. Yeah, so it's working. So that was the issue all along. And another thing is that we also need to add the footer to the layout, so not to the index. We need to add it to the layout. So I'll come to this index and we'll cut this part out, cut this part out, and can go to the layout and import it right here. So save. We also need to go back here and remove it from here. So I believe that's the last thing. So let's run another commit. So we say move the contact to the layout file. All right, let's clear this out and let me get rid of this one. Go to deploys. So let's wait for this to finish deploying. All right, so the site has been published. Let's just give it one more go. All right, let's test it out as well. So it's showing, and now we can see the footer right here. So we can go back. Cool. And all these are working as well. All right, guys, that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. And do also let me know if you like a well polished video, because I don't like a video that is well polished that there won't be any mistake, because I'm not a good programmer and I like showing my mistakes and fixing it in real time in most cases. So let me know if you like this kind of video, or you like a more polished version where I will store all the code somewhere else and just copy everything for you guys. And do well to leave any questions in the comment section, and see you next time.